All right. Hello, friends. Today, the topic of discussion is the endocrine system. The endocrine system is one of the major systems of the body which regulates the physiological activities of the body, the functions of organs, and cell to cell interaction. So, the endocrine system works or it functions by secreting some chemical substances which are known as hormones. Yeah, you must be familiar with the word hormones. Hormones are the chemicals we can say synthesized in our body by certain endocrine glands, which we are going to study further on in the video. And those glands which synthesize certain hormones, these are known as the endocrine glands. And these are the part of endocrine system which regulates and are responsible for various activities performed in our body. Also, all hormones are not chemically same. Their chemistry or their nature may be different, like some hormones may be derived from cholesterol. These are known as the steroid hormones. Others may be derived from the amino acids, especially the thyroid hormones, which are derived from the amino acid called the tyrosine. We'll study further on in detail the thyroid hormones, which the T3 and T4. These are derived from the amino acid called tyrosine, and also other hormones may be derived from proteins. So let's study each one of the endocrine gland which releases some hormones, and let's discuss the functions of each hormone released by certain endocrine glands, starting with the first one, that is hypothalamus. So hypothalamus, it is situated in the brain, as you can see in the diagram, and particularly in the diencephalon part of the brain, and it releases certain hormones. These are known as thyrotropin releasing hormone, corticotropin releasing hormone, growth hormone releasing hormone, prolactin releasing hormone, and the gonadotropin releasing hormone. So these hormones, as you have noticed, that these are ended with the releasing hormone. So releasing hormone here tells you that it goes somewhere else to release a hormone. So hypothalamus hormones acts on other glands or other parts of the body and tells them to secrete certain hormones for physiological activity or for the regulation of that particular gland. And mainly the hypothalamus talks to pituitary gland. So these thyrotropin releasing hormone, corticotropin releasing hormone, so these are certain hormonal secretions of hypothalamus which goes to the pituitary gland and tells them to release certain hormones. Okay, hypothalamus regulates endocrine system of many other glands of the body. Okay, so it regulates the glands. So that is why it is known as the master of the master gland or control center of the endocrine gland, because master gland को ये control करता है. Master gland is the pituitary gland. We'll discuss this later. And it controls the master gland because pituitary glands के जो hormones हैं, they will be released or secreted in the bloodstream when the hypothalamus acts and secretes its hormones. So now the pituitary gland. As you can see, the pituitary gland also lies in the brain, and it is divided into two parts, that is an anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary is also called as adenohypophysis, and posterior pituitary is also known as neurohypophysis. Actually, posterior pituitary is connected to the hypothalamus via the neurons or the neural pathway. Okay, so anterior pituitary releases certain hormones, and posterior pituitary in the same way releases another type of hormones. So first let's study the anterior pituitary gland. Also, anterior pituitary is known as a master gland. Yeah, anterior pituitary is known as master gland because it regulates other endocrine glands. So anterior pituitary gland releases the growth hormone GH, और नाम से ही इसके पता चल रहा है growth hormone means it is used for the growth of the tissues of the body, the cells present in the body. So it increases the size and number of the cells by mitotic division. Growth hormone is responsible for the growth of all the tissues of the body which are capable of growing, which are capable of differentiating. So growth hormone is responsible for the growth of the tissues and cells in the body, and it increases the size and number of cells by mitotic division, and it differentiates the cells and tissues and is responsible for the metabolic activities of the body. Over secretion of growth hormone, कि growth hormone हमारा ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा secrete हो रहा है by the pituitary gland. It causes the gigantism and deficiency, that in mostly in the children we have a deficiency of growth hormone, and which leads to dwarfism, that is stunted growth. Next we have the thyroid stimulating hormone. As the name suggests, thyroid stimulating hormone, so it will work on the thyroid gland. Yes, this is necessary for the growth and secretory activity of the thyroid gland. In result of this hormone secreted by the pituitary gland, the thyroid hormone will release its hormones, that is the thyroid gland hormones, which are T3 and T4, thyroxine and triiodothyronine, calcitonin. So it will stimulate the functioning of the thyroid gland. Yeah. Next we have the adrenocorticotropic hormone. So this hormone will stimulate the structural integrity and secretory function of the adrenal cortex. Yes. Further on we will study a gland named as adrenal gland, and it has adrenal cortex. It has two parts actually, adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. So on the adrenal cortex, this ACTH secreted by the adrenocorticotropic hormone works, and in result of that the adrenal cortex releases certain hormones. Next, the follicle stimulating hormone FSH and LH, that is luteinizing hormone. These are the gonadotropins. See, FSH and LH, these both will work on our gonads, that is testes in males and ovaries in females. FSH जो है हमारा, वो हमारा काम करेगा ovaries पर, and it will cause the maturation of graphene follicle. ठीक है, ओवम बनने में काम आता है हमारा FSH, and it will also stimulate the theca cells of graphene follicle to secrete the estrogen. Another gonadotropic hormone we have the luteinizing hormone, that is LH, and LH also works in the testes in males and in ovaries in females. LH surge आपने सुना ही होगा, which leads to the ovulation. So it is responsible for ovulation. It is also causes maturation of vesicular follicle into the graphene follicle, the ovum, and it also induces the synthesis of androgens, and which in turn will convert into the estrogen and prepare the uterus. LH, the luteinizing hormone in males, it stimulates the Leydig cells which are present in the testes to secrete the testosterone hormone, and testosterone hormone which plays a very important role in the spermatogenesis. And last we have the prolactin hormone, which is related to the mammary glands. Yeah, it functions and regulates the activities of the mammary gland, production of the milk and the secretion of the milk. So next we have the posterior pituitary gland or the neurohypophysis. It releases two hormones, that is ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and oxytocin. ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, it has a main function of the reabsorption of water from the kidneys, and also in absence of ADH, reabsorption of water will not occur, and this will lead to loss of large amount of water through urine, through micturition, that is urination, and this condition is often referred to as the diabetes insipidus. Okay, so it has a role in reabsorption of water from the kidneys. Next we have the oxytocin. Oxytocin is an important hormone mainly in the females. It works on our mammary glands, that milk ejection reflex जो होता है, and also it has a very important role in the ejection of the fetus from the mother. Yeah, oxytocin causes the contraction of the uterus and helps in the expulsion of the fetus from the body of the mother. And oxytocin secretions are largely increased during labor, and so that the cervix dilates and the fetus descends through the birth canal. Alright, next we have the thyroid gland. It releases three types of hormones, that is thyroxine T4, triiodothyronine T3, and calcitonin. So T4 is released or secreted in majority, that is thyroxine, by the thyroid gland, and these both T3 and T4 are the derivatives of amino acids, and these are derived from the tyrosine amino acid. So these are amino acid derivatives. So T3 and T4, these are responsible for growth, metabolism, that is protein metabolism, carbohydrate and fat metabolism, and these T3 and T4, these are also helpful in increasing the heat production in the body, and which increases the BMR, basal metabolic rate of the body, and it also leads to the growth. Increase in thyroxine secretion accelerates the growth, especially in children. and these both have various other functions on metabolism and development of the body, and also catecholamines release. Alright, next we have the calcitonin hormone. This is also released by the thyroid gland, and calcitonin is secreted by the parafollicular cells of the thyroid gland. See, in thyroid gland, when we go through the detailed structure of thyroid gland, we have the follicular cells of the thyroid gland. Also, we have the parafollicular cells which surrounds the follicular cells of the thyroid gland. So these cells that are known as the parafollicular cells of the thyroid gland, or the clear cells, C cells we can also call them. Okay, so these secretes the calcitonin hormone. Calcitonin hormone acts on the blood calcium level. So whenever there is a rise in the blood calcium level, so calcitonin hormone will decrease the blood calcium level. Okay, so the calcitonin hormone reabsorbs the calcium from the blood. The calcitonin hormone acts on the bones. It activates or stimulates the osteoblastic cavity, that is the deposition of calcium on the bones, and it also increases the excretion of calcium through urine while when acting on the kidneys, and also it prevents the absorption of calcium from the intestines. So next we have the parathyroid glands. So parathyroid glands, actually these are present on the posterior surface of the thyroid gland. ठीक है ना, एंड 4 पैराथायरॉयड ग्लैंड्स होते हैं हमारे पास. एंटीरियरली जो है हमारा thyroid gland है, and posteriorly we have the 4 parathyroid glands, and the secretion secreted by the parathyroid gland is the parathormone. parathyroid gland हमारा क्या, कौन सा हार्मोन secrete करते हैं? parathormone, which is essential for the maintenance of blood calcium level. parathormone जो हमारा, it enhances the reabsorption of calcium from the bones. कैल्शियम हमारा वन ऑफ द इम्पॉर्टेंट आयन है विच इज़ एसेंशियल फॉर मैनी फिजियोलॉजिकल एक्टिविटीज़ सच एज बोन एंड टीथ फॉर्मेशन and osteoblastic activity, the osteoclastic activity, the cell division and growth, mitotic division, and it also binds with certain enzymes. Okay, and coagulation of blood and many activities of skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles activity. So calcium का जो role है हमारा important है हमारी body में. Okay, so parathormone works on the blood calcium level. It increases the reabsorption of calcium into the blood, whether it absorbs from the bones or it absorbs from the renal tubules of the kidney. So in short, if I tell you that calcitonin from the thyroid gland, it decreases the blood calcium level, and parathormone from the parathyroid gland, it increases the blood calcium level. Okay, calcitonin hormone blood से calcium level reabsorb कर bone पर deposit करेगा, whereas parathormone reabsorb the calcium from the bones into the blood. Okay, talking about the pancreas. So the pancreas, these are exocrine as well as the endocrine glands. I'm sure you've all heard about the pancreas, that these have an exocrine function, that it releases certain digestive enzymes, and on the other hand it also has endocrine functions, which by releasing certain kinds of hormones which have their specific functions on the physiological activity of the body. So getting into the detail, the pancreas, the endocrine function of the pancreas, actually the pancreas has the cells known as the islet of Langerhans. Alpha cells in the pancreas secretes the glucagon hormone, beta cells release the insulin hormone, and the delta cells release the somatostatin hormone, and also they have the PP cells or the F cells which secretes the pancreatic polypeptide. So firstly, talking about the insulin hormone, which is released by the beta cells of the pancreas. So it works on the blood glucose level, very important hormone in the body. So it works on the blood glucose level. See, blood glucose level अगर हमारा body का high हो जाता है, so it decreases the blood glucose level by binding the glucose through the glucose transporters, that is GLUT4. GLUT4, this is insulin sensitive glucose transporter. So insulin, it is the only anti-diabetic hormone. Anti-diabetic hormone, That is, it reduces blood glucose level. No other hormone reduces the blood glucose level of the body. And it takes up the glucose by the GLUT4 glucose transporter 4 and binds with it, helping in reduction of the blood glucose level. जब हमारे बॉडी का ब्लड ग्लूकोज लेवल बढ़ जाता है, सो इंसुलिन सिक्रीशन भी बढ़ जाएगा. ओके, इट राइजेज रैपिडली विद इंक्रीज इन द ब्लड ग्लूकोज लेवल. So normal blood glucose level is 80 to 100 mg per dl. Okay, and when it increases between 100 to 120 mg per dl, the insulin secretion also rises rapidly because हमें क्या करना है, normal blood glucose level रखना है. Also, if we talk about disorder of the pancreas, that is the diabetes mellitus, a very common disorder nowadays among the various individuals of the population, that is diabetes mellitus. It is actually a disorder or a disease that is associated with high blood glucose level. बहुत ज़्यादा glucose level हमारे blood में बढ़ा हुआ होता है. That is known as the diabetes mellitus. That is the diabetic patient, and mostly cases जो हमारे होते हैं, it develops due to the deficiency of insulin hormone. Insulin hormone नहीं इतना ज़्यादा बन पा रहा है, अगर बन पा रहा है तो रिलीज़ नहीं हो पा रहा है, और ड्यू टू सर्टेन रीजंस और ड्यू टू सर्टेन पैथोलॉजीज इन द pancreas, production of the insulin is disordered. The deficiency of insulin hormone has occurred in the body, which results in the high blood glucose level, and thus diabetes mellitus occurred. Next we have the glucagon hormone, which is secreted from the A cells or the alpha cells of the pancreas. The glucagon hormone also works on the blood glucose level, ठीक है, but not like the insulin. It actually increases the blood glucose level when there is a condition like hypoglycemia, that is low blood glucose level that is below 50 mg per dl. blood glucose level कितना चला जाएगा हमारा, below 50 mg per dl हो जाएगा. That is the hypoglycemia, low blood glucose level. So glucagon works in this type of condition and thereby increases the blood glucose level of the body, and it thereby increases the blood glucose level by the glucagon secretion, which increases the blood glucose level, or by the amino acid secretion, which also increases the blood glucose level by gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis, that is the process of making glucose or the production of glucose from non-carbohydrate substances. Okay, so this was about the glucagon hormone. Next, if we talk about the somatostatin hormone, which is released or secreted by the delta cells or the D cells of pancreas in the islet of Langerhans of pancreas. Somatostatin, actually it is the inhibitor of hormones. It inhibits the hormones. It inhibits the secretion of glucagon. It inhibits the secretion of insulin. Also, somatostatin inhibits the various GI hormone secretions, and somatostatin also inhibits the growth hormone. That is also, so it is also known as GHIH, that is the growth hormone inhibitory hormone. So this was it about the pancreas, which is an exocrine as well as endocrine gland.